Gamechangers.
Hi, I am Lexi. Welcome back to Gamechangers powered by data.ai. In this episode, we are celebrating International Women's Day 2023 and shining a spotlight on some amazing women in the mobile gaming industry and celebrating their contributions to advancing the gaming community and our society. It is a 3-part series, so be sure to check out the other episodes as well. The conversations are deep and honest and super enlightening. In this episode, I am very excited to sit down with Jayne Peressini. She is a force within the gaming industry, Web3, and tech world at large. Her experience spans years in the Silicon Valley startup community across gaming, sports, growth marketing, and Web3. She is an inspirational leader, putting empathy first, and is known for opening up her calendar to strangers for advice and mentorship and having open conversations about mental health. I am very excited to speak with her. Let's dive in. I'm very excited to introduce Jayne Peressini, who is a gaming and sports guru and a growth guru and has been in the tech scene doing amazing work for a very long time. So welcome, Jayne. I wanted to hear, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role or your roles throughout your career?
Yep. Thank you, Lexi and Chris, for having me. I really appreciate it. How do I define myself right now? Well, right now I'm on a little bit of a, hiatus, so it's been kind of fun. But I started in the mobile games industry in 2000. I'm going to date myself. 2005, 2006, way before the iPhone. And uh, I've had the fortunate kind of opportunity to stay in gaming. I've gone into roles that are a little bit more growth focused in terms of revenue when I was at Reddit, gone back into user acquisition for companies like Machine Zone and DraftKings and EA, and then I've found my way into Web3 at Dapper Labs most recently. I was the VP of growth and the GM of Top Shot. And now I'm full-time mom and chicken owner and dog owner and about to get to ramp up to go back to work. So it's been a really nice break. I've done a lot of reflection actually, so this kind of comes at a good time. I've thought a lot about where I am in my career and things that am proud about my brand, I would say, in terms of who I am in the games kind of category. A lot of people don't know, but I have a lot of social anxiety. So I suffer from having a hard time connecting with people or being in rooms with a lot of people, and having an online presence almost like helps me in a sense because people will recognize me or say, "Hey, Jamie," and even Lexi, I know we connected when I did like an office hours, and one-on-one is great for me because I get to know people a little bit easier than in a group setting. So I really enjoy being social in a one-to-one perspective, even though like groups kind of freak me out. But I think that's been helpful in my career because I've been able to connect with people on different levels, whether that be because I'm a mom or I'm neurodivergent, and talk a lot about my mental health, especially in our category that's super high performing with individuals, as well as we're talking about a lot of big numbers with revenue and businesses. And I am I am not shy about how I've failed a lot in terms of testing and being able to iterate, but I've also, I think, learned quite quickly in the industry as things have changed. And we've gone through everything from for me, going to an iPhone, free to play models, then, the whole attribution stuff that's been going on, and then now into Web3 and how that adds into this, economy and live ops situation and how we acquire users. And so I just consider myself a pretty, hopefully above average mom and hopefully above average leader, and really take care of my team. And I think that's what I'm most proud about are all the women that have been on my team or that I've been able to connect myself, and surround myself with. And so I really enjoy seeing all of them flourish in this male dominated still industry, but There's a lot of strong women out there, whether I had a hand in it or not, that I really love seeing kick ass in the industry. So
Well,
that's
I can,
a lot.
as a testament to that, I feel like I can, I mean, I didn't know you during COVID and I saw you're very, um, like well known for like you just post open like office hours. And I think I had a mutual connection and I remember doing, um, the office hours with you and not quite knowing what I would say, um, and what it was supposed to be like, but you kind of opened up to people about women in gaming or user acquisition or growth or mental health and at the peak of COVID, that connection side of things and um, being able to have someone in the space. And I will say, like, because you're as a woman, a woman posting that made me feel so comfortable. And I know that's probably a big reason why I was like, I'm just gonna reach out to this person I've never met and see, have a chat.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm
And
glad you did.
it was awesome. I remember just feeling, I think something a lot of people in an industry where you feel like, especially in the gaming industry, where you feel like there might not be a lot of you going around or a lot of women in the space or people maybe going through similar life experiences. It just helps to feel seen or to feel like doing, someone knows what you might be going through or is going through similar life things. So it was super refreshing for me. And I'm sure most people all the wonderful people actually who have been able to take advantage of your office hours, I'm sure they feel exactly the same. I thought that was very cool. And I'm also not normally the first person I tend to be a little bit more introverted. I'm a data analyst by trade. I really like kind of, so it was cool to also hear how you also, you mentioned you had social anxiety and things. And it made me feel very like, oh, we have got a lot in common.
Thanks, Lexi. I actually really enjoyed our conversation. So when I saw that you were going to be, when Chris reached out, and I was like, oh, Lexi's going to be on, and I was like, sweet, I get to hang out with her, but more officially.
I also wanted to see, you had mentioned, just tackling some of the, overcoming some failures throughout your career and learning quickly. I was wondering if there is any sort of central thread that ran through those learnings for you. Were there lessons you kept having to learn again and again, or were there sort of challenges that you overcame that you could potentially give some advice on for folks?
I think a central theme is not holding on to stuff. I think when I was younger in my career, I was quite bitter in terms of seeing, I think as even, we see everything from people succeeding, and you're like, well, I'm busting my ass. And then you see things like feeling wronged in the industry, and then you see, you know, uh, things that didn't work out, whether it was a company or with a leadership team or people or whatever it is, or a campaign. And I truly don't have any regrets in terms of where I've gone, the career decisions I've made, um, who I've surrounded myself with, who I've trusted, all of that. I truly do not have any bitterness, resentment, any wish I could have done something differently. The things I focus on are taking away the experience in terms of if it's a campaign, and most of the campaigns fail. And it's not just me. Most everyone's campaigns fail. That's just a fact. It is a fact. So not being ashamed of that, like really digging in and kind of sitting with the uncomfortable feeling of like, wow, this really sucked or this failed. So why? Let's dig in. Like, and no one wants to sit and sit in that for too long. But if you actually like dig into it and kind of dissect where things went wrong and retest, and then you'll figure it out. And I think the same is with your career in terms of if you are bitter, you write something off and then you go on to the next. You never truly understand and truly figure out what you could have done differently. In every situation, there's always something that you can learn. And I feel very similar in terms of, again, if it's a small experience to a very large decision that in hindsight you feel like was very large. But I truly, whenever people ask me to, like, is there any place you wish you like didn't go or did this opportunity or didn't? And I always say no. Like I never look at something and say, man, I wish I took that job that now that guy has or that girl has or whatever it is. I always think about um, how lucky I've been in terms of being able to have these experiences that not a lot of other people get to have because they don't stick their necks out like I do. They don't want to gamble with their reputation like I do. They don't want to work, they don't like the unknown in terms of, well, I don't know, how am I going to build a team, or I don't know if they're going to like me, or what if my peers are jerks, or, all of those types of things. And I really, really have been very lucky and fortunate in my career and my life. And so I have really no regrets. And hopefully I just continue to make more and more mistakes, and then I don't get burned out on the mistakes and on the failures. I'm getting older now. Like I really, I know I'm probably going to look back on all these things when I'm like in my 50s or 60s and be like, Jayne, you were talking about being old, like when you're almost 40, like, come on. But I truly do feel it now. I mean, I have 3 kids, it's different. My life is different now. And the things I spend my energy on. And I still have days and moments where I'm feeling quite abrasive, where I'm feeling like I'm a little bit too hyphy. I'm feeling, I'm maybe a little bit too animated about something I really care about at work or something. And everyone's got to work on something, and I still work on it. And some are better than others in terms of situations and all that. But I really, um, my team is probably the thing I care most about in terms of my current teams, my old teams, anyone that's ever been worked for me, under me, whatever it is. That's like the one thing that I really care most about is what they would say about me in a room if I'm not there, and how they would lead, reminding themselves of how I led them, and hopefully just continuing to build a more inclusive workforce and a more empathetic workforce, in which we do our best work. That's how we do our best work.
Gosh, could not agree with that sentiment more. I think, I think a lot of what people are, it seems a lot of people are going through with it kind of, I don't know, maybe probably was kicking off before, but the great resignation and this like quiet quitting. And I think there is a movement towards feeling like there are workplaces where people feel there's an empathetic leadership involved, and it's really great values like as a team, and you feel really good about the people you work for, and that it's more inclusive. I think there's a really strong current of that, which is exciting because I think we need that. And also, you sort of mentioned briefly burnout. I think that's there's a lot of articles floating around about. Just saw one today from the Wall Street Journal about Americans taking part-time jobs because of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And I think burnout's been something that's not unique to American work life or tech in general globally. And I think it's good that those terms are surfacing, and to have a leader like what you mentioned being more empathetic and having that understanding is just going to help people feel like they can keep they're enjoying their career, they feel supported in their career. I think it's really important, and I like how you've talked so much about that, the impact of things on mental health, and even taking a hiatus. I think, I don't know if that what drove you to take your hiatus, but I think that that's something that's awesome to see in a career. So even people who might not know you, but seeing that you've done that can make people feel like they too could take a break if they need it, instead of kind of
Yeah, I think
pushing through.
yes, I appreciate it. So I mean, the like I said, I'm a very unfiltered person. I've been laid off multiple times, and I live in, I'm from the Silicon Valley. I'm born and raised here. I have seen the different booms. I have seen things really hot. I have seen major downturns. And you know, I'm a working mom. My wife's a working mom, and we had the same, I have the same concerns that anyone does in terms of, am I going to get a job if I take a hiatus? Is this, is this the right time? Do I need to not say undervalue myself, but take opportunities that maybe I would have red flags about, and be okay being treated a certain way, or like kind of just putting up with more shit than you usually do because of the job market that we're in. And I hope that, hopefully it makes people feel better that we can all still get jobs. Like everyone's employable. I really believe that everyone is very employable, and it's really playing on your unique style to obviously stand out. But everyone's absolutely employable, and that shouldn't deter anyone from, if they're in a really bad situation mentally, or they feel unsafe at work, or whatever it is, that they should remove themselves from that situation. And no matter where you are in your career, you could be just starting out, you could be an executive, and you need to take care of yourself first. And sometimes that's hard, and that's taking a step back, walking away, taking a breather. But this hiatus too was a lot of, like, I lost part of myself. And I think that was, and that it truly is like probably one of the hardest things I had to realize this year, was that I lost a lot of who Jayne was and Jayne is. And I needed this time to remember how great I am, and also for other people to remind myself how great I am, because I've been very beaten down. And a lot of it too is like being, you know, you can never do everything right. And I think that when you don't have people in your corner to remind you on a daily basis, it really can get to you. So I think if anyone's listening to this that like feels like uh, they're they're in a spot where they're told constantly that they're not doing a great job, that they're not valued, that they have all these signals, whether they be microaggressions or macro, they should leave. They should take themselves out of the situation, because you're going to lose yourself, and um, you're going to find work. Everyone, like, I just have this weird, it's like kind of, maybe it's like, I don't read a lot of the books, like The Secret or whatever, but I do have this belief that things will work themselves out, and it's way better to be worried about that than to be worried about who you will become, or the type of all the things that you've built yourself up to become, to be kind of broken down. So maybe reading in between the lines of, like, I needed this break for myself. I have a tough exterior, but I'm still a human being. And um, if the company culture isn't right, if the leadership's not right, if you don't have people that support you or your team or whoever, then, like, F them, and, like, go find a place that will support you and let you be who you are. Um, so that's, I think that's ultimately what I've uh, rededicated myself to. And I guess apologize to my own self for not doing it sooner, and not taking care of myself, and remembering that I've I have become this person for a reason. That I've taken all this experience and all these things into account, and I need to make sure that I stay true to who I am, and be empathetic, be a leader that um, appreciates and prioritizes individuality, that prioritizes mistakes, that celebrates them, that celebrates the unknown, and the fear of that, and what that looks like. And that's scary too. And I think a lot of people that feel pressure from above of, there's layoffs in the mix and all of these kinds of things. And yes, there's revenue pressures that every company has to face. Um, but you don't need to impact people's humanity for it. You don't need to make your employees feel like they're employees, like they're just a cog on the wheel, or they're a number. Uh, and uh, yeah, there's a study that I'm not going to be able to say it as eloquently as you, but there was another study that was done on the effects of war, like the extremes, war, famine, things like that. And a lot of people that have kind of the things they most regret from being in a macro economy of, like, that's not doing so well, or war, is that they make decisions that they normally wouldn't make. And I think that's the other thing too, is if you are in a situation where you're giving up a part of yourself, or you have to make a sacrifice, like, that's not who you are necessarily. Everyone will forgive you. Like, no, like, like, everyone's got to make hard decisions. And sometimes that feels like being a shitty leader. Like, you have to let people go in a layoff, and in normal circumstances, maybe you don't. And you can't hold on to that and think like that's you as a person, of like being this shitty person. You're not. There's all of these things that we normally under normal circumstances we wouldn't do, just don't lose yourself in the meantime by doing it. And I think if we can all remember that too, if we're all like somewhat human, and reminding ourselves that, uh, yeah, I also believe that everyone has an aspect of altruism in themselves, like giving up a bonus to save someone. I've done that in the past. Giving up, like, these things matter to people, and so I always think about how can I save someone on my team, or promote someone, or do something for someone on my team, even if it impacts me, whether it's financially or personally or whatever it is. Um, and sometimes that's to a fault, but I don't want to say I'm Jesus Christ here, but I think that leadership should think that way too, of like, it's not just status quo, of like, think about the human of all these people. And some people are, you know, women that are pregnant being laid off. Like, I know plenty of women that are pregnant and they got laid off. I know plenty of people that have a very sick spouse and they got laid off, or a child, or they're, the main caretaker, or they just bought their house, their young kid just buying their first house, and they get laid off and they're worried about their mortgage. And these are all things that, um, that I hope that we can be a little bit more transparent and empathetic, and also like figure out how to help. Like, I love to problem solve with people too, of like, when people come to me and they're like, hey, stressed out because of the job market, because of, this, that, and the other. And a lot of it too is like connections, like, oh, okay, so, you're having a hard time finding a job. Oh, I know this person is in, like, and that's really hard for a lot of people to do, because I think it's all on them. Like, I'm spending 8 hours a day, 7 days a week applying for jobs or something like that. And that's probably not going to be as successful as if you rely a lot more on your village and the people that you have around you, and even the people that maybe you don't think are around you, but they do. Like, I know you, Lexi. If you ever came to me and said, "Hey, I need something, Jayne," like, I would absolutely do whatever you needed me to do for you. And I think that a lot of people kind of forget that our space is so small. And I think we have to remember that we are a very kind of tight community, and we should kind of leverage that, especially during the hard times.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you sort of if you had specific advice for navigating now, but I think you really, I mean, you beautifully covered it just then. Is there anything else you can give, any other advice for um, any individual or women specifically looking to break into gaming around what tactics they should do, or how they might need to think, or how they could think about things, or anything that you've learned that you think would be worthwhile for folks?
I think similar, maybe the advice I would give, similar to like Web3, when people are like, hey, how do you break in Web3? It's a lot of like, I know how to do this thing. I know the process of it. So it's not about how much knowledge you have. It's more about like, how good you are at acquiring knowledge and curiosity. And as long as you have a process for that, like mine, I have a very specific process for how I learn new tech, new ways of thinking. And I just continue to refine that so I can get there quicker, understand things better, like get deeper really quickly. And so, instead of like kind of carrying over like this history of like your encyclopedia book of everything that just take the process, the gears, the tools, and and a lot of it's self-confidence. I just got a message the other day from someone that said, thanks for chatting with me about Web3. You gave me the confidence to think that I can break into it, and now I have a job, and in Web3 and blah blah. So and gaming, similar. Like, if you have a passion for it, if you've always wanted to be in it, there's plenty of us out there that also, like, if you cold emailed me, I would also try to help you get into gaming. So I think it's also like how genuine you are and wanting to get into the world. And it's a good time now too, because there's so much up in the air about attribution and all these things. And there's like you know we've all kind of celebrated the scientist aspect of marketing, where it's the measurable. Like, I know exactly how to get there, and I would say I'm the most like that, in terms of like, that's the camp I reside in. But there's the other side of marketing, which is, and I don't say creative in terms of creatives. I see creative in terms of, if you're a marketer and you get results and you don't know how the hell you got there, but but you did. You're a creative marketer, in terms of like, you have a immeasurable sense of how to accomplish what you need to accomplish, and you don't need You don't need measurement to do it. And there are some, it's a very small percentage, but there are marketers like that. I know a few that are truly creative marketers in terms of they can do that. And I think that uh, embracing some of that into who, if you want to come into gaming, and it's very, yeah, like, there's a reputation like, oh, well, I don't know SQL and I don't know, Python. And I'm not like, if you have a, a track record for being able to get to results, but you don't know how the hell you got there, but you have a track record of doing that, you're a good marketer. Like you could still be in gaming. I call it like when usually marketers will be like, oh, well, I trust my gut. I'm like, well, how accurate is your gut? I've never measured it before. Well, measure your gut. Like how accurate is your gut? So I hope that maybe during this time too, although it is, the job market is crazy, there's still plenty of jobs. There's so many people too that because of layoffs, they're starting their own studios. And I think that's an excellent way too of getting into the industry is people that are launching studios because they got laid off of a big company or whatever it is, and like reach out to them and be their first marketer or their first growth person or whatever it is, because that's a ton of opportunity. I would definitely go that route if that's your angle to get into the industry.
Ah, definitely. And when you're in a small startup environment, gaming or otherwise, the learning curve can just, I mean, I feel like you can acquire 10 years of skills in like 6 months, it feels like, because you're just,
Yeah.
there's less people to do work and you just end up sort of getting across so much of the business. Um, that's a very good point for people that there are new gaming studios being launched as a result, and new startups in general right now. A lot of people that are flexing that entrepreneurial muscle or putting that idea into practice that they've been sitting on for a little bit. So that is a very great point. I think the last question I have for you is, which inspiring women do you admire? Are there any women in your life that you, or mentors that you really look up to?
Yeah. There's a few. My grandmother's probably one of them, Grandma Janet. She's, gotta love her. Um, the reason I love her so much is she's like my favorite person in the world, is she has a way of being able to tell you something very directly, but sounding like a very big compliment. But it's in a way that's so endearing, and I still am trying to master that. And she like doesn't hold on to stuff. She's a very easygoing, like, chill grandma. She's very cool looking. I don't know. She drives a convertible, like plays Lady Gaga. Like she's just a very cool woman. Um, Others in the industry, Jill Braff is one of my first like early mentors. She's over, I think, at Microsoft now, or Xbox, but she's a great person. I remember her like I was an intern at Glue, I think, at the time, and MySpace is the biggest social platform at the time, and she was trying to get her marketing team to try to get like to understand social media more. I mean, it was like very nascent at the time. And she would sit with me, I was in college still. She would sit with me at my desk and we would go through MySpace and like just like and she's a CMO at the time. Like she didn't, like, but she was so cool about like just wanting to learn about these things, and pushing her team to adopt these new things and test these new things. And she didn't wait for someone to come to her with like, well, this is what we think. She like wanted to just like go to the source and be like, okay, Jayne, like show me your profile. Okay, and I'll go to this now. And I think that's really like that really like stuck with me in terms of that's one of the ways I learn things. Um, and not to let something be super buttoned up and be a super official, to like kind of get in there and make decisions for yourself and kind of like really like get your hands dirty. Um, some others, Steph Sherman is definitely one of my mentors. She's the CMO of DraftKings, an amazing leader, one of the best leaders that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Her team has an extremely uh, they love her. She also creates a very safe environment in terms of stability and making everyone feel like she gives you air cover. And I just really, really admire that about her. She's a very strong woman in the industry, especially like sports gambling. I mean, that's a hell of an industry. Uh, I would say There's a few others too. Like when I was at Machine Zone, there were a lot of women in the legal team of all people. But one, the chief legal officer, Tori, now she's at AppLovin, but Tori's an amazing woman, and I've learned a lot from her. She's a great mom. She she's cares so much about her kids. She cares so much about her team. So I really appreciate how and I think the theme here too is like how much women care about their team, and the success that they lead is not because of who they've stepped on, but how they've been able to build these amazing reputations and people and just ecosystems around them, really. Um, should I stop there? I mean, my twin sister, of course, she's at Facebook, Instagram, heading up the creator economy. And My wife would probably be another one. She's like the rock. I'm like kind of like the kite that floats in the air, and my wife's like got the string tethering me to the ground because I'm kind of a little bit more of like the um, spontaneous one, and like a little bit more of the dreamer. And she's definitely like more of the when I have a problem, she's there to like help me fix it. Like she's such a problem solver, and sometimes it's great. Sometimes I just want to be like, okay, just listen for me for a second. I don't need you to tell me what to do. Like I know you already know the answer and the solution and all that. That's great, but let me just like I just really want to like like bitch to you on the couch for a little bit. So those I would say are my up there. And then you have the like Kim Mulkey, who's the head coach of the Louisiana of LSU's women's basketball team. She's turned that program around, and I think that's actually a good example too of women that as you get more and more high profile or senior in your as a female leader, the more critics you will get. Kim Mulkey is also famous not only for what she's done for LSU, but also for what she hasn't done in terms of Brittany Griner, in terms of not saying something about Brittany's case from Russia. I think that's really hard to be criticized for kind of trying to be a political person while trying to remain very much focused on sports. Um, I don't know what the right answer is, but I think that those are times too where women get treated very differently than men in the business. Um, so uh, yeah, I think Kim's a good example of um, mentors, leaders. They should not be perfect, um, and if they are, then they're hiding something. But also like the more genuine you are as a leader, and the more that you um, and the mentors to me that have been like the most empathetic, listening, just like truly care about who I am, it comes off that way. And I hope that I'm that way to people that ask me to be their mentors, or just like officially in unofficially. And I have a lot of those too. And I would encourage any woman or anyone really on that's listening is just reach out. Like, when people say, "Oh, how'd you get mentors?" I literally reached out and I was like, "Hey, I really like what you do. I like your brand. I like, how you lead. I've been watching from afar, or I know you've managed me in the past. And then, now would you mind mentoring me?" And things like that. And it's really, really helped me in my life, both personally and professionally.
Oh, that's such a good point that just taking that plunge to ask it can be scary and you feel like out of your depth a little bit, but it's so good.
Yeah.
And I also love what you're saying about what people don't do, what some of the leaders refrain from doing being a point of sort of admiration. So, not stepping over people and like not putting, people, using them to climb in their career or anything like that, and just not saying things that some people, it's just it leaves a space, but some people might feel pressure to fill that with sort of something. And your example of the LSU's basketball coach is a great one of sort of not commenting in itself can be like a great thing. And so some of it is, I guess that was refreshing to hear, is sort of the things that aren't done as well being points of admiration too, as comparison points. Thank you so much. I actually lied. I have one final question. I'm curious if you got chickens before you went on hiatus or after it started.
A mix. So my youngest, my oldest, she loves animals. And I also got a puppy. She's actually my dog too is laying at my feet. So I have a 8-month-old puppy, and we have chickens. So we got 8 chickens a few months ago, and I wasn't a great chicken farmer. I was new, so a lot of them had an early demise, but I kept a few alive. I was in France with my mom, and my wife was supposed to take care of them, and then she let them freeze, but rest in peace, old chickens. Now we have a new batch. So we have 6 chickens. They're all alive, knock on wood. They'll be transitioning to their outside coop in a few weeks. Uh, but yeah, I actually love animals too. I think the introvert in me, like I really appreciate things that don't talk in terms of I don't need to talk. I, but also just like you still can empathize with animals, and I just find it really fascinating to that animals have their own personality, and I can connect with them still. And yeah, the chickens are cool. I sometimes I'll just like sit and watch TV and pet the chickens, and my wife thinks it's super weird. Um, but they're like my emotional support animals, all my animals and my children, really. But yeah, so one of my oldest is taking care of the. She's like learning in one of her classes how to take care of farm animals, and so the chickens are a project, but it becomes our project because my wife refuses to touch them because she thinks they're gross. So soon I'll have eggs, and then I'm gonna be, like the egg drug lords that I see on TikTok about, just
Oh,
making a ton of money. But I'll have a lot of
that's
eggs because I have 6 kids, and I think they lay a lot of eggs, and I'm not a big egg eater, so I'm gonna have a lot of eggs. And actually, funny thing, my youngest is actually allergic to eggs, so it's kind of funny. So
oh gosh. Oh, it's like the new avocados. I feel like when avocados became scarce, like
oh
for whatever reason, people got
yeah,
so into eggs are the new avocados.
yeah, now it's eggs.
Oh,
Yeah,
so exciting. I'm going to eventually get a chicken coop as well. I'm a huge
you
animal
can grab some
lover.
land. Yeah, they're not hard to
Yeah.
take care of. Don't let my
It's
story
just
scare you.
the foxes, I think. I don't know. Do you
So
get foxes where
yeah,
you are or coyotes or anything?
yeah, we have turkeys and
Turkeys.
deer, but they don't kill them. We have bobcats. Um, you just gotta like, yeah. Our coop is very secure. It's got like chicken wire underneath. Like it's just totally, they're totally wrapped in there. So yeah,
Build a little fortress.
exactly. That's what you need.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting. This has been so fun. I feel we probably could go for way longer, but I will let you have time back in your day.